There's a moment a lot of us know well. You're sitting somewhere perfectly safe. Maybe it's your kitchen, maybe it's your car in the driveway after work, and you kind of realize that your shoulders are up around your ears, and maybe your jaw's tight, and maybe your chest feels like someone's been sitting on it all day. But nothing bad's happening. So there's no actual threat in the room, and still your body's absolutely convinced that you're in danger. So that's not an anxiety disorder. That's your nervous system doing exactly what it was built to do. The problem is it's doing it on a loop, and nobody taught you how to turn down the volume. I want to talk about that today. Not the breath work, though breathing's great. Not the cold plunges. I want to talk about the thing underneath all of it. The actual reason your nervous system got stuck, and the one shift that actually moves the needle. So I want to tell you about a woman that we'll call Sandra. I worked with her. She's a retired teacher, 63 years old. She's got 3 grandkids. She's the kind of person who organized everyone else's life as a profession and somehow kept doing it after she stopped paying for it. We all know someone like her. And by the time she came to me, she had tried all sorts of stuff. She'd done breath work, she'd done cold plunges, she'd read the books, and she said to me, listen, I do all the things and then I stop and I'm exactly the same as before. And I asked her a really important question. I said to her, Sandra, when you breathe, what are you trying to make go away? And I remember her looking at me and just taking a moment and then saying, everything. That's where we have to start. Because your nervous system has got one job, and your nervous system has been doing this job since before you were born. What it's doing is it's scanning the environment for threat. And when it detects that there's something that might hurt you, it mobilizes your whole body to respond. So your heart rate goes up, your muscles go on alert, your digestion slows down, and the thinking parts of your brain take a back seat. So this is the stress response. You've heard about it. Fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Okay? So here's what most people miss. Your nervous system can't tell the difference between a physical threat and a psychological one. A lion in the savannah, a difficult conversation with your daughter, an email from your boss, an unresolved argument from 6 years ago that just surfaced in your brain at 3 o'clock in the morning. To your nervous system, they all look the same. So many of you know that I follow the work of neuroscientist Stephen Porges, and on my YouTube channel, I've even interviewed his son, Seth Porges, who's doing really amazing work in his father's work. And Stephen Porges spent decades mapping how the nervous system responds to threat. And what his research, which he calls the polyvagal theory, shows is that we don't just have one stress mode. We have a whole hierarchy of responses, and we cycle through them based on whether we feel safe. Not whether we are safe, but whether we feel safe. And that distinction's everything. So here's what that actually means for you on a practical level. If your nervous system has spent years on high alert, so you might have grown up in an unpredictable household, or you've been the responsible one for so long that your body just stopped expecting rest. What happens is your nervous system starts to treat that alertness itself as normal, as safe, as familiar, and calm, very strangely, starts to feel wrong. Calm feels unsafe. Calm feels suspicious. This is why the breathing doesn't stick, right? This is why, because you're trying to calm down a nervous system that's decided that calm is a threat. So the shift isn't a technique. The shift is actually the realization. You're not anxious because something's wrong with you. You're anxious because your nervous system is doing its job based on very old information. So it learned somewhere along the way that the world requires vigilance, that resting is a luxury, that if you relax, something bad's going to happen, something's going to fall apart, right? And it has been delivering that message to you faithfully in the form of tight shoulders, racing heart, ever since. So this is called neuroception. Neuroception is the way that your nervous system constantly and unconsciously assesses whether you're safe. And here's the thing about neuroception. It responds to signals, not arguments. So you can't think your way out of the threat response. You can't logic your nervous system into believing you're safe. You have to show it. So the mind shift I'm talking about is this. Instead of trying to push the anxiety down, what if you got curious about what your nervous system is actually trying to protect you from? What if you stop fighting the alarm and say to yourself, what's this about? What does this feeling think is actually coming? What old story is this? Because almost always, if you sit with it for a minute, not fixing, not breathing it away, just looking, there's a story underneath. Something like, I need to be in control or something bad's going to happen. Or if I slow down, everything's going to fall apart. Or I'm only safe when I'm useful. You know? And what happens is we've been carrying these messages for so long that we don't know how to put them down. They're not weakness. These are old adaptations that looked after you when you needed them. The problem is they've stopped matching the actual situation. And your nervous system doesn't know that yet. So here's your experiment for this week. All right? Not a program, not a habit. One thing. The next time you notice your body going into that familiar hum of alertness, where your shoulders are creeping up and your jaw's tightening, that low-grade sense that something isn't quite right, don't try to fix it. Just put one hand on your chest and say out loud or in your head, I notice you're working hard. That's it. Acknowledge the nervous system like you'd acknowledge a worried friend who'd showed up at your door. Not stop it, you're being ridiculous. Just, I see you. You're working hard. And notice what happens. Because what the research shows is the act of naming a state, even if we just name it internally, if we just acknowledge it, what it does is it activates the prefrontal cortex and it begins to modulate the threat response. So labeling isn't bypassing, it's actually the first step of regulation. So you're not trying to talk yourself out of anything. You're offering your nervous system the one thing it needs to begin to shift, the signal that it's been heard. All right? So if this is landing for you, don't forget, I've got the quiz. It's in the description so you can see where your happiness is. It is only takes a few minutes. It's personalized and you get a free PDF. So your nervous system's not broken. It is extraordinarily loyal. It's been keeping you safe. And the only way it knew how for a very long time. What it needs from you now isn't discipline or willpower or another technique. It needs to know that you've finally arrived, that you're here, that you're paying attention, and that it doesn't have to do this alone anymore. You've been the strong one for a long time. Maybe it's time to let your own body in on the secret that the emergency's over. As always, be kind, take care, go gently in the world.